Along the lonely highways of Georgia stands an old motel with a dark secret. Guests say they wake at night to see a silent maid cleaning their room, moving slowly, precisely, almost unnaturally. The terrifying part? She died there in the 1970s, yet every night, she still returns to finish her shift.
What would you do if you woke up to find someone cleaning your motel room at 3 a.m.? How would you react when you learned that housekeeper died 50 years ago? And what if you discovered she wasn't a ghost at all, but something far more disturbing hidden in the walls? My name is Rachel Chen, and I'm a travel writer based in Atlanta. I spend about half the year on the road, documenting small-town America, forgotten highways, and the kind of places that don't make it into glossy magazines. I'm 34 years old, divorced, no kids, and I've learned to be comfortable alone in strange places. After 8 years of doing this, I thought I'd seen every kind of roadside motel America had to offer. I was wrong. On October 15th, I was driving through rural Georgia on Highway 441, researching a piece about dying small towns along old state routes. I'd planned to make it to Milledgeville by evening, but my car started making concerning noises around 6 p.m. I pulled into the first town I found, a place called Ashton with a population of maybe 100-200 people. One main street, a few churches, a gas station, and a motel. The Magnolia Inn sat at the edge of town, a classic 1960s motor lodge with a neon sign and single-story rooms arranged in an L shape around a parking lot. The paint was faded, the landscaping overgrown, but it looked functional. More importantly, it was the only accommodation option in Ashton. The office was small and dated, with wood paneling and a counter that had probably been there since the place opened. Behind it sat a woman in her 60s with gray hair and tired eyes. Her nameplate read, Dolores, Manager. "Need a room?" she asked, not looking up from her crossword puzzle. "Yes, just for tonight. My car's making strange sounds. I'll get it checked in the morning. Auto shop doesn't open until 9 a.m. You might be here longer than one night." She pulled out a registration card. $60 cash only. I paid and signed. She handed me a physical key attached to a plastic tag with room 7 printed on it. "Checkouts at 10, continental breakfast from 7 to 9 in the office. Don't leave valuables in your car." She went back to her puzzle. Room 7 was at the far end of the building, last room on the right. The door was heavy and required some force to open. Inside was exactly what I expected. Double bed with a floral bedspread, tube TV bolted to the dresser, small bathroom, generic landscape painting on the wall. Everything was clean but dated, frozen in time somewhere around 1985. I brought in my overnight bag and laptop, locked the door, and settled in to work on my notes. The room had adequate Wi-Fi, surprisingly. I ordered pizza delivery from a place in town, ate while watching local news, and worked until about 11 p.m. The bed was more comfortable than expected. I fell asleep quickly, exhausted from driving. I woke to the sound of movement in the room. My eyes opened to darkness. I checked the clock on the nightstand. 3:17 a.m. Someone was in the room with me. I could hear them moving near the bathroom. Footsteps, the rustle of fabric, water running in the sink. I sat up slowly, quietly, reaching for my phone on the nightstand. In the dim light from the bathroom, I could see a figure, a woman in what looked like a housekeeping uniform, moving around the small space, apparently cleaning. "Excuse me," I said, my voice tight with fear and anger. "What are you doing in my room?" The woman didn't respond, didn't even seem to hear me. She continued working, wiping down the counter, straightening towels. I turned on the bedside lamp. The sudden light should have startled her, but she didn't react. I could see her more clearly now. Middle-aged, maybe 50, wearing a pale blue housekeeping dress from decades ago. Her movements were methodical, precise, like she'd done this task thousands of times. "Hello? I'm talking to you. You need to leave right now or I'm calling the police." Still no response. She moved from the bathroom to the main room, straightening the chair, adjusting the curtains, her back to me. There was something off about her movements. Too smooth, too regular, almost mechanical. I grabbed my phone and dialed the front desk. Dolores answered on the fourth ring, her voice groggy. Front desk. This is Rachel Chen in room 7. There's a housekeeper in my room at 3 a.m. She won't respond to me and she won't leave. A long pause. A housekeeper? Yes. A woman in a uniform. She's cleaning my bathroom right now. Ms. Chen, I'm the only person working tonight. There's no housekeeper on duty. Then who the hell is in my room? I'll be right there. Dolores arrived 5 minutes later wearing a bathrobe over her clothes. She unlocked the door with her master key and stepped inside, looking around the room. Where is she? Dolores asked. I looked toward the bathroom. Empty. I checked behind the door, in the closet, under the bed. No one. She was just here. She was cleaning the bathroom, then she moved to the main room. I saw her clearly. Dolores examined the room. Everything looks in order. No signs anyone was here besides you. I'm not making this up. I woke up and there was a woman in a housekeeping uniform. What did she look like? Middle-aged, maybe 50, pale blue uniform, brown hair pulled back. She moved like she was cleaning, but she wouldn't respond when I talked to her. Dolores's expression changed. Something flickered across her face. Recognition mixed with resignation. Ms. Chen, have you been drinking? Taking any medications? No, I'm completely sober. I know what I saw. Sometimes people have vivid dreams in unfamiliar places. The mind plays tricks. This wasn't a dream. She was here. I watched her for several minutes. Dolores sighed. Look, you're not the first guest to report something like this. Usually in this room, actually. Room 7 seems to make people see things. What kind of things? A woman cleaning. Always the same description. Always around 3 a.m. She paused. Locals say it's the ghost of Clara Jennings. She worked here as a housekeeper in the 1970s. Died in this room, actually. Heart attack while cleaning. Some guests claim they still see her doing her rounds. You're telling me I saw a ghost? I'm telling you what people say. I don't believe in ghosts. I think this room has some quality that triggers vivid dreams or hallucinations. Maybe the paint has lead. Maybe there's mold in the walls. I don't know. But you're not the first to report this, and you probably won't be the last. I want a different room. All the other rooms are occupied. You can get a refund and leave, but like I said, there's nowhere else to stay in Ashton. I considered leaving. Sleeping in my car seemed preferable to staying in a room where I'd hallucinated a dead housekeeper. But my car was making strange noises and it was 3:30 in the morning. I'd wait until dawn, get my car fixed, and get out of town. Fine. I'll stay until morning, but I'm not going back to sleep. Dolores shrugged. Suit yourself. Try not to disturb other guests. After she left, I sat on the bed with all the lights on, working on my laptop, determined to stay awake until sunrise. But exhaustion eventually won. Around 5 a.m. I dozed off. I woke at 7:15 to my alarm. Morning light streamed through the curtains. The room looked normal, harmless. No phantom housekeepers. I felt foolish for having been so frightened. I showered, packed my things, and went to the office for the continental breakfast. Dolores was there looking tired. A few other guests were eating. A truck driver, a young couple, an elderly man. I grabbed coffee and a Danish, sat at one of the small tables. The elderly man approached and sat across from me without invitation. You were in room 7 last night, he said. Yes. How did you know? Because I can tell from your face you saw her. Clara, the cleaning lady. I saw someone, but it was probably just a dream. I saw her too, 20 years ago when I stayed here. Same room, same time, 3 a.m. Woman in an old uniform, cleaning like nothing was wrong. He leaned closer. But here's what nobody talks about. Clara Jennings didn't die of a heart attack. What do you mean? I'm from Ashton. Lived here my whole life. I remember when she died. It was 1978. I was just a kid, but I remember the talk around town. Clara Jennings was murdered. My coffee suddenly tasted bitter. Murdered how? They found her in room 7, strangled. It was during the night shift. Whoever killed her tried to make it look like she'd had a heart attack, but the medical examiner knew better. There were marks on her neck. Who killed her? Never caught anyone. No witnesses, no evidence. The motel owner at the time, guy named Harold Vickers, he wanted it hushed up. Bad for business to have an unsolved murder at your motel. So he paid people off, got the ME to change the report, made it all go away. Official story became that Clara had a heart attack, but people who were there know the truth. Why would guests see her? Why would she appear in that room? The old man smiled sadly. That's the thing. I don't think people are seeing a ghost. I think they're seeing something else. Something that explains why she died, and why nobody wants to talk about what really happened in room 7. Before I could ask what he meant, Dolores appeared at our table. Mr. Patterson, are you bothering my guests with your stories? Just making conversation, Dolores. Ms. Chen has a car to fix. Don't fill her head with nonsense. Mr. Patterson stood, gave me a meaningful look, and left. Dolores watched him go, then turned to me. Don't listen to him. He's a local conspiracy theorist, thinks everything's a cover-up. He said Clara Jennings was murdered. She died of natural causes. There's a death certificate, it's public record. Can I see it? Why would you want to do that? I'm a writer. I'm curious about local history. Dolores studied me for a long moment. The county clerk's office opens at 9. You can look up whatever you want there. But I'm telling you, you're wasting your time. Clara Jennings died of a heart attack in 1978. That's all there is to it. I went to the auto shop first. A mechanic named Joe looked at my car and diagnosed a failing alternator. He could fix it by end of day. I had time to kill. The county clerk's office was in a small brick building on Main Street. The clerk, a woman in her 30s, helped me search records. I found Clara Jennings' death certificate from November 15, 1978. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. No mention of strangulation. No signs of trauma noted. But I noticed something odd. The medical examiner who signed the certificate, Dr. Thomas Brennan, had made corrections to the form. Whiteout covering previous text, new information written over it. Someone had changed the cause of death after the initial examination. Can I see the coroner's report? I asked the clerk. Let me check. She disappeared into a back room and returned 20 minutes later. I can't find it. That's strange. We should have a full report on file for any death investigation, but there's nothing here. Could it have been destroyed? Shouldn't have been. Records from the 70s should still be archived, but sometimes things get lost. I spent the rest of the morning at the Ashton Public Library, searching through old newspaper archives. Found a brief mention of Clara Jennings' death. Local woman dies at workplace. 2 paragraphs noting that Clara Jennings, 52, a housekeeper at the Magnolia Inn, had died of apparent natural causes. No further coverage. But I found something else. 2 weeks after Clara's death, there was a small article about the motel changing ownership. Harold Vickers had sold the Magnolia Inn suddenly to a local family. The article mentioned he was retiring due to health reasons. I looked up Harold Vickers, found his obituary from 1995. He'd moved to Florida shortly after selling the motel and died there 17 years later. No mention of the motel in his obituary, no mention of Clara Jennings. By 4 p.m., my car was fixed. I could leave Ashton, write off the strange night as a sleep-deprived hallucination and never think about Clara Jennings again. Instead, I went back to the Magnolia Inn and rented room 7 for another night. Dolores raised an eyebrow when I made the request. I thought you'd want to leave town. I changed my mind. I'd like to experience room 7 again. For my article. Your funeral. She took my money and handed me the key. That evening, I prepared. I set up my phone to record video of the room overnight. I positioned my laptop with its camera facing the bathroom. I wanted documentation of whatever I saw. I stayed awake, sitting in the chair by the window, watching the clock. At 3:15 a.m., I heard the sound that had woken me the night before. Movement in the bathroom, water running. I grabbed my phone and checked the recording. The bathroom appeared empty on camera, but I could clearly hear sounds from there. I stood and walked to the bathroom doorway. She was there again, the woman in the pale blue uniform. But this time I was ready. I studied her carefully, looking for details I'd missed before. Her uniform wasn't quite right. The fabric looked odd, almost like a costume or replica rather than genuine vintage clothing. Her movements were precise but repetitive, following the same pattern: wipe counter, straighten towels, check supplies. Then she'd return to the counter and start again, the same loop. And there was something about her face. In the dim light, it looked strange, not quite real, like a mask or a very good makeup job. I stepped into the bathroom, walked right up to her. She should have acknowledged me, should have reacted somehow, but she continued her cleaning routine as if I wasn't there. I reached out to touch her shoulder. My hand passed through empty air, but I felt something. Not a body, but a texture. Fabric. A projection. I looked up at the ceiling. In the corner, barely visible, was a small device. A projector. Clara Jennings wasn't a ghost. She was a hologram. I examined the device more carefully. It was old, probably installed decades ago, but still functional. Someone had set up a projection system to display a cleaning woman in room 7 at 3 a.m. every night. But why? Why would someone install a holographic projection in a motel room? I checked the rest of the room carefully. Found more devices hidden in the walls, cameras, microphones, all old technology, but still operational. Room 7 was wired for surveillance. My stomach turned as understanding dawned. This room had been used for something. The surveillance equipment, the projections, it was all designed to disorient and confuse guests, make them question what they were seeing. I thought about Clara Jennings found dead in this room in 1978, the covered-up investigation, the sudden sale of the motel, the missing coroner's report. Room 7 had been a trap, and Clara had discovered it. The next morning I confronted Dolores, showed her the photos I'd taken of the hidden equipment. Her face went pale. "Where did you find these?" "In room 7. Behind the walls, in the ceiling. The whole room is wired with cameras and projectors." "How long have you known?" I didn't. I swear. I bought this place 15 years ago. I knew about the ghost stories, but I thought they were just local legends. Someone installed this equipment. Someone has been maintaining it. Someone is still watching that room. The previous owners, maybe? Before my time? This technology is from the 70s or 80s. Someone installed it then and it's still running. That means someone's been paying the electric bill, maintaining the systems, that someone might still have access to the feeds. We checked the motel's electrical system, found a separate meter running to room 7, hidden in the maintenance shed. The account was in a false name, paid automatically through a bank in Florida, where Harold Vickers had moved after Clara died. I called the police, brought Detective Sarah Morrison to room 7 and showed her everything: the hidden cameras, the projectors, the surveillance equipment that had been operating for over 40 years. The investigation that followed uncovered a disturbing truth. Harold Vickers had been running an illegal operation from the Magnolia Inn in the 1970s. Room 7 had been used for blackmail. Guests were secretly recorded, then confronted with the footage and extorted. The ghost projection was added later to discourage complaints and make witnesses seem unreliable. Clara Jennings had stumbled onto the operation. She'd been cleaning room 7 one night when she found the hidden cameras. Vickers had killed her to protect his secret, then covered it up with the help of corrupt local officials. After Clara's death, Vickers sold the motel and fled to Florida. But he'd left the surveillance equipment running, either unable to remove it without raising suspicion or keeping it as insurance. The projection of Clara cleaning the room was his final cruel joke, using her image to perpetuate the cover-up of her murder. Vickers had died in 1995, but his estate had continued paying the bills for the hidden system through an automatic bank transfer that nobody had ever noticed or questioned. The case was reopened. Clara Jennings's death was officially ruled a homicide. Her family, what remained of it, Finally got answers after 46 years. The Magnolia Inn closed down. Dolores lost her business and her investment, an innocent victim of crimes committed decades before she bought the property. The building sits empty now, scheduled for demolition. But here's what still bothers me. When I reviewed the footage from my phone and laptop, the recordings showed an empty bathroom. No hologram, no projection visible. Yet I saw her. I saw Clara Jennings cleaning that bathroom. I watched her for minutes, studied her movements, reached out to touch her. The police explanation was that the projection system was sophisticated for its time, using frequencies of light that cameras couldn't easily capture but human eyes could see, or that the stress and suggestion made me see what I expected to see. But I know what I saw, and I know that on that recording at exactly 3:17 a.m. you can hear something that wasn't generated by any hologram, a woman's voice, quiet, almost inaudible, but definitely there. Help me. Not Clara Jennings from 1978, but someone's voice, real, human, recorded. And I have to wonder, was there someone else in room 7 that night? Someone the cameras didn't show? Someone who knew I was there, knew I was recording, and wanted to be heard? The investigation found decades of hidden footage, hundreds of guests recorded without consent, dozens potentially blackmailed. But they also found something else in those old recordings. In 1978, the night Clara Jennings died, the cameras captured what happened. She'd been cleaning, found a hidden camera, and confronted Harold Vickers about it. He'd strangled her while the cameras rolled, documenting his own crime. But at the end of that footage, after Clara was dead, the cameras caught something else. Another figure entering the room, another person present that night. Someone who'd helped Vickers move the body, helped stage the scene, helped cover up the murder. That person's face was partially obscured, but forensic analysis identified them as Thomas Brennan, the medical examiner who'd signed Clara's falsified death certificate, the man who'd helped cover up her murder. Brennan died in 2003. Like Vickers, he took his secrets to the grave. But the voice on my recording wasn't from 1978. It was recent, current. Someone else was in room 7 that night. Someone who knew about the surveillance system and used it to communicate. The police investigated but found nothing conclusive. The voice couldn't be identified. The "help me" could have been from the old recordings, an audio fragment that somehow played through the system. But I don't think so. I think someone is still trapped. Not a ghost. Not a projection. But a person. Somewhere in Ashton, someone knows more about what happened in room 7, someone who witnessed something, who's been silenced or hiding for decades. And I think my presence, my investigation, my refusal to accept the ghost story, scared them enough to reach out, to leave a message in the recording, a plea for help that nobody else seems to hear or believe. I've tried to follow up, contacted everyone involved in the original investigation, searched for anyone connected to Vickers or Brennan who might have information. But Ashton is a small town with long memories and deep secrets. Nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to admit they might have known what was happening at the Magnolia Inn all those years. So I'm left with questions. With a voice on a recording saying, "Help me." With the knowledge that Clara Jennings was murdered, but the feeling that her story still isn't complete. Sometimes late at night, I think about room 7, about what it was really used for, about how many people were victimized there, about who else might know the truth and why they've stayed silent for so long. And I wonder, if I went back to Ashton, rented that room one more time, waited until 3:17 a.m., would I see Clara again? Would I hear that voice? Would someone finally tell me the whole truth? The Magnolia Inn is scheduled for demolition next month. Room 7 and all its secrets will be reduced to rubble. The surveillance equipment will be destroyed. Any remaining evidence will be lost forever. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe some truths are better left buried. But I can't stop thinking about that voice. About someone who needed help badly enough to reach out to a stranger through decades-old surveillance equipment. Someone who watched me discover Clara's story. and hoped I'd discover theirs too. I failed them. Just like everyone failed Clara Jennings for 46 years. The haunting of Room 7 wasn't a ghost. It was guilt. It was evidence. It was a crime scene hidden in plain sight, disguised as a ghost story so nobody would look too closely. And somewhere in Ashton, Georgia, someone knows more than they're saying. Someone who might have been in that room, who might have witnessed what happened, who might still be waiting for someone to ask the right questions. If you're from Ashton, if you remember the Magnolia Inn, if you know anything about what really happened there in 1978 or any time after, please, tell someone. Tell the police. Tell Clara's family. Tell anyone who will listen. Because the dead can't speak, but the living can. And sometimes, that's the only thing that separates justice from another ghost story that nobody believes. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more unsettling tales. Drop a comment below. Have you ever stayed somewhere that felt wrong? Ever seen something that others insisted wasn't real? Share your experiences. And remember, not every ghost story is about the supernatural. Sometimes the real horror is what people do to each other, and the lengths they'll go to keep it hidden. Sleep well.